Emily. Eugene's with us.
And are we recording? Okay.
We're recording.
All right, let's bring the Nickel Plate Review Committee, April 28th, to order. Kay, would you like to do roll call?
Yes. Ms. Stoller. Here. Mr. Johnson. Are you on mute? Mr. Johnson, are you with us? Thank you. And Ms. Bowman.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, to start off today's meeting, I would like to start with a somber note and do a brief moment of silence for Warren Harling. Thank you. Warren will be he will be missed very much. So, all right, so moving on, like to approve the minutes from February 24th. Could I get a motion? Selena moves. Do I have a second? In the chat? Megan, do we have a second from Eugene in the chat?
Nothing yet. Yes, he made a second.
Okay, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes approved. Our first case of the day is NPR-21-2 Nickel Plate Station. Megan?
Good evening, Nickel Plate Review Committee. Megan Schaefer with the Planning and Zoning Department. So the item before you tonight is for some revisions to the Nickel Plate Station project located just north of 116th Street, identified in red before you here. So this does include multiple buildings with the project. It did come before Nickel Plate Review Committee back in, I believe, 2019. Let me pull those notes. Yep, November 20th, 2019. So the full project includes some retail, live-work space with some apartments and townhomes, and then a 341 parking facility total. So before you tonight, we're really here to focus on the public plaza area and the legacy building. So that's identified really directly north of 116th Street. So the proposed architecture for these buildings are really minor facade updates. They do include some tuck pointing. One of the existing buildings will be removed, but the two shown here in this rendering next to the new leasing office, they are planned to remain. And then the former Nickel Plate restaurant is also proposed to remain, which is not included in this rendering, but you can see the elevation of that structure here. In addition to just, the minor facade updates, they will be adding some new windows that is shown both in these elevations, and then you can see kind of the black detailing here in these images. So the major component of this revision includes the public plaza area. So you can see that this plaza is located between the former Nickel Plate restaurant and then these legacy buildings. It will interact with the new Nickel Plate Trail tunnel. So you can see a pathway proposed over that, which will connect to the depot or the switch building there to the west of the trail. There will be pedestrian access to the parking garage to the north of this, so you can see that pathway here. And then the plaza itself has landscaping, public seating, some benches, and then there's some bike racks as well that are proposed within that. There's also a pedestrian bridge that is going to be added, or is proposed to be added to this project. So going back to that aerial image, just to kind of give you guys some context, that is proposed to be located over Moore Street, which is a private road. That road will be closed off to vehicles majority of the time with bollards. Those are removable bollards in case we ever did want to open up for vehicles, but that pedestrian bridge will be proposed really just north of the existing Handles building. And you can kind of see the elevation of what that looks like here. This has been reviewed by both our engineering and fire department, and they are both okay with the clearance for this bridge. And then some of the other updates in this includes some 116th Streetscape revisions. So when this project was first approved, we had the standard tree grate and tree light streetscape that was shown along 116th Street. Per staff's request, there have been revisions made to this, which includes this knee wall with landscaping beds and then not additional lighting, but also the lighting that's shown here. And that will be reflected in not only the nickel plate station project, but also on the south side with the First Internet Bank. So both parties have agreed to these changes. Staff feels that this is a better aesthetic look for the area, and then also provides some safety for the pedestrian walking along 116th Street. So just a close-up of what that could look like. This also has the opportunity to provide some seating options for people directly outside of the entrance to the building. And then with this revision, they are also requesting to allow for the initial awnings that were shown before you back in 2019. So at that time, if you remember, the condition was made to add some architectural features along the front that kind of incorporated this new modern architecture with the existing legacy buildings. And one of the thoughts was with the awnings, the look of the awnings. Since then, the awnings on the legacy buildings are proposed to be removed. So they are now requesting that they add these sunshade awnings instead of what was formerly approved which was more of a fabric awning look to match the legacy buildings. Staff is okay with that request, but was really going to leave it up to this board to provide your suggestions and recommendations on, since that was an initial commitment by this board initially. So that is all staff has. Browning Day is also here to give a presentation, so I will turn it over to Adam.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, committee members, for having us here tonight. My name is Adam Chavers. I'm actually with Browning Investments. I am joined here with our design partners, folks from Browning Day. We get name confusion quite a bit, but I represent the ownership of the project, and obviously Browning Day is our design partner. So that was a great intro by Megan. Thank you very much. We can just go through quickly, and please, if you want to join me, John.
Hi, John Deerdorf from Browning Day. We've had a lot of fun thinking about the legacy buildings and then the plaza space around it and how does that connect, and also a lot of interaction with the designers of the Nickel Plate Trail. And so we think we've incorporated a lot of the good stuff on all of those parts, and so we'll just walk through real quick and try to answer any questions you have.
As Megan mentioned, we're going to hit a couple of things: just the station, the legacy building facades, the connection bridge, the building sunshades, and then we'll get to the overall plaza rendering. So, the plaza it's really cool, and a lot of great pains taken to figure out how this plaza space interacts with not only the legacy buildings but also the Nickel Plate Trail project, and given the fact that it's a tunnel section, how it connects back over into kind of everything else in the public spaces and what we're looking at right here. So a couple of things just to point out, some highlights. As Megan mentioned, we have the bridge over the trail, which connects us back to all of the green space on the east side of the trail. We have kind of a additional seating or a raised small stage for performances. You can see a great combination of hardscaping as well as landscaping as well. The landscaping is kind of highlighted in green, obviously. Have considered how to handle the nickel plate bar and grill as it's currently constructed and adding seating on the the east side of that building, and then also adding some bike racks here at the north end. We'll get into obviously more on the specifics of how we're addressing the legacy buildings a little bit later, but we've relocated the stairs from the back side of the State Farm building kind of to the middle between it and the Vardigan building. Provides a little bit better east-west connection for this pedestrian corridor and also hides the stairs, which we think is a nice touch. I do want to point out, as Megan referenced, you can see a kind of a faint outline here of the what we call the former barbershop building. We're proposing that building be taken down. It's about 1,000 square feet. It's sort of less historically significant, certainly less architecturally significant than the other two buildings that are remaining. We commissioned kind of a building condition study earlier this year, and it's just not a good building. There's I can go into as much detail as you would probably like, but it's block construction without a vapor barrier. There's settling, cracking, which has led to quite a bit of water intrusion, penetration. There was mold observed on the tour, it's something that we think structurally, architecturally, the significant historical significance doesn't lend much. And actually, if you look at and focus on the building footprint itself, it makes for, its presence actually led to kind of an awkward, disjointed kind of plaza feel. And so if we take it down, plaza's bigger. We have better permeability from the walkway on this side of the trail that we're on right now over across the trail and out onto 116th Street. So if we're really thinking about how this section of 106th Street develops both sides of 116th Street and that pedestrian flow and people moving back and forth, this does a little better, it does a lot better job in again allowing for that. So we would propose that we take that building down. Again, it's about 1,000 square feet, and we have remaining still about 18,500 square feet of commercial space, both along 116th Street here as well as up along North Street and a couple of pieces along that private Moore Street that Megan mentioned before.
Yeah, I think the other part that Adam mentioned in removing the stairway on the north side of the insurance building, opening that up visually, looking, if you're walking from west to east, there's, on this site plan, you can see a bit of a sidewalk there right above the street where it says relocated stairs. That then connects over to additional walkway that goes behind the Handles building and connects all the way over to Maple Street, so that we have a good sort of secondary walk, pedestrian walk path to circulate from Maple to some of the retail spaces that are over on Maple, all the way back to Central Green. So that coupled with 116th Street, we think has made this way more pedestrian friendly. That wasn't in our program to figure that out, but yeah, good point.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, we'll spend a little bit of time here digging into some detail on the legacy building facades. So this is the former State Farm building, the furthest east of the two. As John just mentioned, that ability to kind of move that stair from what was the back side of the building onto the side of the building, we think is a nice change. Where obviously we have a new roof, a fair amount of brick replacement and tuck pointing happening. Most importantly, though, the front facade of the building will reinstall a full glass front. The iron, the metal storefront, the historic metal storefront will be repaired and repainted. It's currently kind of a dark green color, and there wasn't sort of a strong significance that, or a strong indication that that was of historical significance, and so we're proposing a black color which ties better with the accent colors that go with the multifamily projects just behind it and next to it, so.
And- Yeah, yeah, yes.
Yeah, and I think when we get to we have some more renderings that I think show exactly what we're proposing here.
Just a minor point, across the street at First Internet, their window system and storefronts are all black as well, so it kind of goes with that historic warehouse industrial look. Then the former Vardigan building is getting, primarily our charge was to secure the perimeter, the exterior shell of the buildings and make sure that they're watertight, so that, as Adam said, there's a lot of new roofing going on, patching of brick, new windows, obviously getting those all sealed up, some new doors, or replacement doors, so that they're sound and they're ready for the marketplace.
The Nickel Plate Bar and Grill building, we are, just a couple of key highlights here. So this top elevation is the southern elevation, so the 116th Street side. We're replacing these windows kind of on the wings with larger windows. There is a single doorway here, which you might have seen. We're proposing to remove that and replace it with a new window that is consistent with the others that are already in place. The reason being is it's not a sort of a functional door for using to kind of get in and out of the space. And so it's also a very narrow sidewalk at that point. It's about 5 feet, maybe even less. And so it just functionally speaking, we don't want a lot of people sort of coming in and out onto that stretch of the sidewalk. And then moving around to the plaza side of the elevation, this is the bottom elevation here. Existing overhead doors, we would kind of either replace those or work with those, but think that's a good element, which those would open up. And if you remember from the plan view of the plaza, we'd have outdoor seating kind of in front of these doors here, and then also down here. A lot of, again, brick and kind of paint work along this building, and this would remain on the east face of the building, the sort of main entrance into this building. So. The connection bridge, as Megan mentioned, we think it's a wise idea to connect our east building and our west building with a pedestrian bridge. It's makes for a better product, makes for a better user experience, resident experience, makes for a safer experience for people crossing, and it makes it easier experience for those with ADA to get from one building to the other. It does come directly from a kind of a public access stairwell, obviously in the east building over here, and then dumps right into one of the two courtyards, the pool courtyard on the west building.
That's at the third floor, the plaza space and the bridge.
And the building sunshade here, as Megan mentioned, there was some discussion about you can see the existing kind of black fabric awnings on the legacy buildings, and so there was a desire to kind of match that for these windows on the leasing building. I think there was a kind of a lack of historical significance to the awnings, and so they proposed to sort of not replace or repair the fabric awnings on the two legacy buildings, which then led us down the path of thinking about whether the awnings sort of worked for this building, the leasing building. And so we're proposing these sunshades. They match they go a little bit better with this sort of canopy that's coming out here over the main entrance door. And they also, if you think about the sort of broader context here of 116th Street, the switch around Luvino, even all the way around to another Broken Egg, crossing over the entrance here to the Ellipsis, that you also have these sort of metal sunshades. So slightly different version of them, but it's pretty prevalent along 116th Street here, and we think it's kind of a nice, kind of a two-ended, or a bookends is what I'm looking for, a bookended approach to, the sort of more newer construction, modern buildings with the more modern sort of sunshade, awning, if you will, and then we have the three legacy buildings left in the middle surrounding the plaza. This is the street level overall plaza rendering. As we were talking about, what you see here, the sort of metal piece here around the storefront, was what we're proposing to, and these windows up here, proposing to take from the dark green that you see today to black, which again matches the existing kind of window and accent colors that we have, both on the new construction behind, and then also, as John mentioned, across the street with the First Internet Bank building. And this is a nice kind of aerial perspective view of the plaza, again, with kind of all of the proposed improvements to the legacy buildings, and you can kind of see how the proposed seating for the Nickel Plate Bar and Grill. We've got a good mix of hardscape and landscape, and yeah, we're pretty excited about how this has turned out and evolved. You talk about the light here?
Just on the facade. Yeah.
Right. Which light gray are you talking about?
Either one of those grays back there.
Okay.
I think that you could bring that into here to kind of, you know what I mean? It's just like that color scheme really isn't around there, unless it's across the street, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, it's not, and so I think that's a good suggestion. It's part of the challenge with trying to pick colors for space that doesn't have an actual user is there something that makes sense? But we would like this to tie together, so we can make that adjustment.
I think that's a good suggestion. It just kind of stands out a little bit based on everything else with the grays and the reds and the browns, and then you have this light cream color that came out of nowhere.
Okay.
I like that. What color, are we looking at this kind of limestoney gray color for the pedestrian and the plaza area? Is that?
Yeah, it'd be called concrete.
Is it going to have the decorative pattern in
You're seeing a scored pattern, and just to try to delineate some of the different areas, the sidewalk obviously being parallel to 116th Street, and that rhythm going along there with the new landscape in front of the leasing building. The plaza is sort of oriented on a 45 that relates more to the bridge over the trail that connects over into the courtyard, or the space between the two switch buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tried to play with that a little bit and give it some scale that breaks it down, but doesn't turn it into an incredible maintenance
Yeah,
challenge.
so it will kind of have that herringbone look across the bridge, and then the, angle, it will have this decorative look to it. I know this is not to scale per se, but
Yep.
I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. What is the access from the bridge that goes over the nickel plate to the nickel plate? Because obviously we're still at the tunnel section, so where does that come together?
The white section on the rendering, that's the ramp up from. from the trail? Yeah. So on this rendering, the farthest left on the rendering, it's green, obviously grass, but, thanks, I forgot we had that. So that.
Okay,
that-
so
that's
across the tunnel, it actually meets the trail on I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so a little,
I was
about
not
halfway up,
visualizing that right.
about halfway up towards North Street, you start walking up a ramp, and then you're either into the Central Green or the Plaza.
Okay.
Yeah, you,
I think that's what was throwing me off. I was thinking that was part of the
The
trail,
actual-
and I was like, I just couldn't, but now that you say it's a shadow, it makes perfect sense. Thank you.
I think the actual trail itself is just visible right here.
The white, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of coordination went into that conversation.
Yeah, I bet it did. I bet it did. No, I mean, you can tell there's been a lot of conversation in general about how to bring it together. So before there were awnings on the nickel plate and there were awnings on the Vardigan building, correct? Wait, yeah. And
Yeah.
those were the fabric awnings, and those are now gonna be removed in order to repair the facade, is that kind of?
Correct.
They were not, quote, original, they were
Right.
obviously added to the building and made sense then, but with the new windows and the repairs necessary, we feel like it's a better representation of the buildings to not have those sort of so-called aftermarket awnings.
Sure. Okay.
Eugene did raise his hand as well. Eugene, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yeah, Eugene, let's open
I
it up
am.
to you.
I am. Apologies for the technical difficulties. The only question I had was related to the former nickel plate bar and grill building. Has there been any discussion? And again, apologies for not having these notes if we discussed this before, but any kind of recognition of that site was where a historical, in terms of the nickel plate bar and grill, some kind of historical marker or other placard or indication of that location and its historical significance to the city?
I don't believe so. That's a good question. We can certainly look into that. I don't have an answer for you tonight, though.
There hasn't been a whole lot of information available to talk about any of these three buildings, so we're open for access to that kind of information. We just haven't seen it yet.
This could be.
Yeah, I
something-
appreciate it. Yeah, I just know that there are probably a lot of stakeholders who we know that they were not necessarily happy about losing the nickel plate, but I know that we're going to replace it with something great. But I just think the historical significance of what that location and what that particular business means to Fishers or meant to Fishers is just something worth evaluating, whether there should be a recognition of that of some sort that's in the location. I appreciate you guys getting any feedback on that and incorporating it as necessary.
Certainly.
Yeah, one sort of side parallel comment is that the nickel plate district medallions that are added to all of the projects, which are all over the place on both sides of the street now, they could and maybe should be, we can find a spot in the plaza to also designate that, because it is still part of the district.
Are we gonna name the plaza? I know that may not be necessarily a committee thing, but I think it could be something that could kind of bring it all together, that the name of the plaza, the way that it's presented, is there a placard at the, or some sort of entrance medallion on the building that kind of brings the legacy of the buildings into the plaza, and then we're appreciating, the history of it. And I agree with Eugene, it's been a big topic of discussion around Fishers, so kind of honoring the legacy, right? If there's a way to do that within the project, and it could be a medallion, a placard, something along those lines, I think that could be something of consideration.
Yeah, there hasn't been a name that's been designated for this plaza that I'm aware of. Not that it won't inherit a name over time, right? I'm sure it will maybe be called the Nickel Plate Plaza, but yeah, I know that, as mentioned, there's that cornerstone feature of just the Nickel Plate District logo is incorporated on multiple facades of the other building, the new building, so there's definitely an opportunity for us to look at some spaces in here that maybe we can incorporate a similar type of feature that brings in a little bit historicalness to that existing modern Nickel Plate Trail logo.
And we keep talking legacy, right? I don't know if anyone outside of committees in the city really looks at that, the legacy buildings, and that we are appreciating it as a legacy and maybe finding some way to just show the city of Fishers that we appreciate the history that's in these buildings, and they are a legacy for us. So I think that that's something that might bring all of that together and honor the history that's there, whatever that history might be and however long it might have been. I know it's important to the city to see that. So, Selena, do you have any further commentary? I'm shocked. Eugene, anything further you'd like to discuss today?
I've got one last question, and I don't see it in the rendering, but in this particular rendering, but I think I saw it on another document. But the current lighting, in terms of that street lighting that's similar in pattern on 116th, that will remain in this plaza area, correct? So there's like 3 or 4 light posts on this side, on the north side of 116th. Those will remain, correct?
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
What kind of lighting will we see, I mean, to add to that question, within the actual plaza area? Do you mind?
Tom, do you want to?
Thank you, we just need to have it on record, thank you.
Hi, Tom Green, landscape architect with Browning Day. Right now we're proposing catenary lights over the seating areas and bollard lighting, the nickel plate standard bollard lighting placed kind of throughout the landscape areas.
Okay,
So
thank
that's
you.
it for now.
I just want to say also, I really like that you guys are doing the little knee walls with the landscaping there. I think that that's a really nice addition, so thank you, I appreciate that. Not only for safety's sake, but it is nice to be able to grab an ice cream at Handles and walk down the street and sit on a little, public street and
No,
enjoy
you're
it, so.
exactly right. Small things make a big difference.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice little touch. All right, any further discussion? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve, condition upon the green kind of being changed to a gray, and what else did we say? There's something else.
The two things I have listed are the changing the gray on the facade of the Nickel Plate Trail restaurant and then incorporating a plaque or medallion of some sort.
Yes, that's it. So,
Thank you,
yeah.
Megan.
And to take out, and I think this includes that we leave the sunshade awnings over the multi-building. Yeah, so approve, condition, move to approve upon those two conditions. How's that?
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Approved with those conditions. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Anything else to discuss this evening?
I just want to note that Tony Bagato's last day was last Friday. So with him taking a new job in the private sector, I've been named the director of our department. And then I also am excited to announce that we have a new assistant director for our department, Ross Hillary. So we're really excited to have him in a leadership role as well. And then we also have another new planner with our department, Jonah Butler, who's in the audience. So you'll probably be seeing his face as well more.
Well, congratulations to you all. We look forward to working with you. And nothing else, then I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much.
Everybody have a great night.